Ladies and gentlemen, if I may have your attention, at this time we're going to begin the funeral services of Madeline Cilman. We welcome those of you who are here and those of you who are online. Rabbi Jeffrey Weil will be officiating this afternoon, and I invite those of you that are here to take a moment to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off. I also ask those of you in the first row to please rise as the rabbi leads you in the ceremony of Kriya.
Okay, sure. Please rise. David. Some of you are wearing ribbons. They're called Kriya ribbons. Kriya means tearing. In the Bible, our biblical forebears, when something calamitous would happen, something terribly sad, something shocking would happen, they would tear their garments. They would rend their clothes, in a sense, to expose their exposed and vulnerable hearts. The blessing that you will say, you can repeat it after me, acknowledges God as the Dayan Ha'emet, the judge of truth, which is something that our tradition pushes us towards acknowledging God in that way, even at times when we might doubt that nature of the divine, but nudge in the direction of believing that everything unfolds in a way as it should. So please repeat these words after me, this blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Dayan ha'emet. Amen. Blessed is the true judge. You may be seated. Thank you, David. Adonai ma'adam v'teda ehu, ben enosh v'tichashvehu. Adam lehevel dama, yamav kitzel over, baboki yatzitz v'chalaf, le'erev yimalel v'yavesh. Tashev enosh adaka v'tomer shuvu v'nei adam. These are the words of the psalmist saying, Adonai, eternal God, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you would even be mindful of us? We are all of us just a breath. Our days are a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning it shoots up and is renewed, and in the evening it fades and withers. Such is our lives. But God, you cause all of us to return unto dust, saying, Shuvu b'nei Adam, return, O mortal ones. Would that we were wise, and would that we understood whither we go from here, for when we die, we carry nothing with us, not our glory, not our riches, not our possessions. But God, you say, Shmor Tamu Yashar, behold the upright, mark the wholehearted. Those are the ones who shall find shalom, who shall find peace. And friends, we gather this afternoon to remember someone who is surely wholehearted and upright. She was loving and compassionate and beautiful inside and out, Madeline Cilman. Our scriptures, our Bible has something to share with us, something that is fitting for every moment of our lives, the times of celebration, of course, but also the sad times as well. And I invite you to open up your handouts. You'll find the 23rd Psalm within, which we will read together after I recite it in Hebrew. Adonai ro'i lo echsar, bino desha yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yinahaleni nafshi yeshovev, yancheni v'maglei tzedek l'man shmo, gam ki elech b'geit salmavet lo irarak yata imadi, shivtecha mishantecha, hema yinachamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorai, tishanta v'shemen roshi kosir vaya, ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chaya, v'shafti b'veit Adonai l'orach yamim. We read together the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The third chapter of Ecclesiastes, in Hebrew it is Kohelet. We know it as Ecclesiastes. The third chapter of Ecclesiastes, very recognizable to you, or will be, also conveys this idea that things unfold in life in a way that they are somehow meant to unfold. And again, sometimes life itself unfolds in a way that makes it very hard to understand that, to believe that, times of great sadness and tragedy and so forth. But we are bidden by our tradition to try to acknowledge that things are unfolding the way they ought to. La kol zman ve'et l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim. For everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot that which is planted, a time to tear down, a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve, a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time when we must refrain from our embraces, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear, a time to sow, a time for silence and a time to speak. And so this is a time, an appropriate time to speak words in memory, tribute, honoring the life of Madeline Cilman. In the 40 years of desert wandering by the Israelites, which we're starting to read really this week at this time, according to a midrash, which is an elaboration on the Bible story, a story in Torah or elsewhere in the Bible, there's a midrash that says that the Israelites relied on a miracle to survive. There are lots of miracles according to the Torah, but one of the most creative ones, I think, from our tradition is the miracle of Miriam's well. Miriam was Moses' older sister. According to tradition, Miriam was such a loving person and a person so dedicated to her people, the Israelite people, that this miraculous well followed the Israelites during their wandering, sort of followed them throughout the desert. Try to imagine a traveling well, always there, always bubbling up, in order to nourish the people. And so because of her love for her people, they thrived. Because of their love for her, they thrived. Madeline was like your Miriam. By her own goodness, through her love and through her care for you, through her essential goodness, even through her worry for you, this loving family and friends thrived. And like the Israelites, you will continue to thrive. At times it seemed difficult for the Israelites to thrive during those wandering years. It was not easy for them, and yet they did. But like the Israelites, this family will thrive in large measure because of Madeline's and Barry's loving example. Madeline was the daughter of Gisela, younger sister to Phil. The early years of her life were certainly not always easy. Gisela worked hard. She did her best to provide for her two children, but there was want in their lives. There was even separation. When Madeline was placed in foster care, it was a harrowing experience for a little girl. The family lived for years, the three of them at 6408 North Greenwood, I believe I got that right, thank you, in a very small apartment, mother and daughter sharing a single Murphy bed. They also spent a certain amount of time living for weeks or months at a time with different family members. Things were really challenging. Because Gisela was working, Phil and Madeline spent a lot of time in a very fortunate way at the home of Aunt Mary and Uncle Sam, cousins Ben and Roberts. So that was fortunate, but the times were hard. And yet Madeline, as Phil said about his younger sister, was a happy child, a beautiful girl, he said, inside and out, always. The family situation changed dramatically and for the better when Gisela met George, and everything changed. They moved into a very comfortable home on Sacramento, and now there was financial stability, and there was this great father figure as well. George became Madeline's true father. Madeline graduated from von Steuben, enrolled at the University of Illinois, but she married young. She and Jerry married young, and they brought into the world Marcy and Richard, forming much of the foundation that this family would have over the years, growing and thriving. Madeline always possessed an eye for the aesthetic. And so at a certain point, when her life allowed for it, she opened her store. She just knew she was good at the visual things and more. She knew what should go on the wall, and she knew how the pillows should be arranged, and she knew how the bed should be made. She knew how a bat and bar mitzvah ought to go and everything else. And so the clothes were a big part of this as well. With no retail experience, really, other than, I guess, shopping, no real business experience, she opened Madge's on Lake. And she knew that which she liked, she figured others would like as well, and she was right. She learned the business. She would go to New York, to shows, to buy. She would sell at the store, and that store's success testifies to its owner's drive and her intelligence, her aesthetic sense, of course, and her ability to connect with others. Single at this point in her life, Madeline would go out with friends on occasion, and one night, Barry will be talking about this in more detail in a moment, but one night they were at Bobby's on Rush Street. I'll save the good story for Barry to share with you. Billy's, not Bobby's at all. Was there a Bobby's even? Oh, right, Bobby's in Deerfield, right, exactly. This is Billy's on Rush Street. Okay, well, as you know, obviously, he could tell the story better than I can with the details. I'll just skip to the part about the polyester, which I think you'll talk about too. But, you know, Madeline's aesthetic sense and polyester, that was not a mixture that would go well together. And so she encouraged Barry, after they met, he'll tell you the story, to give away the polyester, which I guess was a vestige from the mid to late 70s. This was in 1984, and he received a tax deduction for giving away all those clothes, those polyester clothes, but he received a bigger, besides the deduction, a much bigger addition to his life, not merely a sartorial addition of finer clothes than what he had been wearing, but the addition of a life partner. Madeline and Barry married. They married first on May 7th, 1987. That was their Vegas wedding. And then back here in Chicagoland on June 14th. Right at this time of year, 34 years ago. Madeline sold her business. Barry stopped working, and they basically spent the last nearly 4 decades together, 24/7. They were together, the two of them, and they were together with the family as well. Lauren came to live with them in Florida, and Madeline became an older but fully enthusiastic cheerleading mom. And she has been cheering on the family and friends ever since. It is a family that, as I said, has grown, and you see it here. Grown to include Joan and Tim, and the next generation, Carly and Rachel and Tatum, Josh, Max and Sam, Brandon, Georgie and Mia, Sean and Rachel, and Wyatt, great-grandchild, 6 months ago. That's an impressive building project, I think. This big family, and most importantly, this loving and affectionate family, was a tremendous source of gratitude and a tremendous blessing for Madeline and for Barry. happy memories were created. And what we try to do, of course, as we all know in our lives, is to create happy memories for our loved ones. Happy memories were created here in abundance. Voyages on the boat City Slickers. Barry was the captain, Madeline the slave. Her word, actually first mate, slave, she said slave. 15 years of going to that dude ranch or dude ranches in Wyoming. Barry loved riding, and he thought Madeline did as well until she told him fairly recently that she didn't love it, but these are the things that we do for our loved ones. The family would visit them in Sarasota, winter breaks, spring breaks, going to Disney, Universal, the pool, playing in the pool, and so forth. Madeline would eagerly anticipate the visits of the family, telling everyone to let her know their food preferences in advance so that she could prepare. And prepare she did, cooking, baking, freezing the stuff until everyone came. Her specialties included matzo ball soup. Matzo balls, hard but delectable. And the bird's nest, also delectable. I can personally attest to that. Madeline, throughout the years, remained close to the whole family, to Phil and Judy, who lived close by. She was also a beloved aunt and cousin and more, and of course to her friends, a very devoted, very close friends for decades and decades, the Golden Girls. And through their investment club, they had fantasized about buying an old folks' home together so they could spend their senescence, their old age together. Instead, they did something much more dynamic. They traveled to exotic climes, Morocco, India, South Africa, Portugal. First class, no less. Thank you. Madeline had a lot of opinions. She would share her opinions with you. That's what she did for those she loved. She would worry about you as well. She could worry. Worrying and opinions, as I tell my kids, it's a measure of love. It just reflects our love. And love she possessed. Love she had. Love abundant for her children, grandchildren, in-laws, great-grandchild. And of course, for the man who sat on that stool and watched her at Billy's, waiting for this blessed journey to begin. The family is also deeply grateful to Evie and Jonah for their dedicated assistance. I mentioned Miriam earlier, Miriam from Torah, Moses' sister. Near the end of the book of Numbers, she dies, and the Israelites bewail that loss. And when that mourning period was over, during the mourning period, they didn't move, they didn't travel. But when that mourning period was over, they moved on in their journey. For a new generation was arising in the desert, in the wilderness. And so do you all now bewail the loss. You bewail the loss of your beloved matriarch, Madeline. The loss is great. It's painful. It's brutal even. For she led you, and she fed you, and she nourished you. And she sailed with you, and she rode with you. And she dressed you, and she decorated for you. And she worried over you, and she rooted for you. She loved you. She loved you as big as the sky. May you love each other with that same boundlessness. And Zichronah Livracha, may her memory always be for blessing. Amen. I'm very pleased to be hearing from family members as well. Calling up first Carly, Tatum, and Rachel together, is that right?
Can't do that. You read it.
To our beloved Bubby, from the three of us. Words can't even describe how much you mean to us. In no way can we capture every way you have impacted us throughout our lives. No matter how hard we tried, we can never do justice of what you have overcome in your life. Bubby, everyone who is sitting here today is here to honor you. To all of you, she may have been a wife, a mother, a sister, or a friend, but to us, she was and is our one and only Bubby. You shared a lot of good memories with us, whether it was her just coming over for our Sunday dinners, babysitting us, getting our nails done, or even making bird's nest, turkey meatballs, matzah with Munster cheese, and lemon chicken. There was not one second that we didn't enjoy spending with you. Back when you and Papa were living in Florida during the winter, we would always count the days until we could see you guys next. Once the plane landed, we all knew you guys would be waiting at the end of the terminal with open arms, greeting us with hugs and kisses. Throughout the last few weeks, we were lucky enough to see you almost every day and got to share your last days with you. Every time we came over, you would be sitting in your chair in the red room with a huge smile on your face, looking as beautiful as ever, being as strong as you could for us, even though we knew how much pain you were in. You even would ask us how our days were. You had such a kind soul. You were always fighting. Even if it was just holding your hand, pardon me, even if it was just holding your hand while you were sleeping, eating dinner with you, or watching Wheel of Fortune with you, we wanted to be there with you. Although we are no longer able to physically see you, there are so many great memories we shared with you that we will cherish for a lifetime. Bubby, you were the best Bubby we could have asked for. You were such a strong-willed, loving, and beautiful person, and we assure you that we will never forget you, and you will always have a special place in our hearts. We love you as big as the sky, always. Beautiful. Thank you. Marcy? Okay. Yeah, sure. Marcy's coming up with Max and Sam. Thank you. Sure, yes, you can.
Okay, my mom gave me something when Grandma Gizzy died 21 years ago, and she always said, hold on to it and please read it at my funeral. So this is something that she wanted me to read. Some of it makes sense. It's kind of hard to read her writing, but the first thing was a poem from a small child in a rural Wisconsin area driving to Ernest, which I believe was her father's brother's cabin, and they've been doing this for 45 years. And it says, do you love me? Do you love me not? You told me once, but I forgot. And she gave that to us in 1995. And then there's two other little sayings that she wanted me to say. And the first one is, all things pass, all that lives must die. All that we prize is but lent to us, and the time comes when we must surrender it. We are travelers on the same road that leads to the same end. When we are dead and people weep for us and grieve, let it be because we touched their lives with beauty and simplicity. Let it not be said that life was good to us, but rather that we were good to life. And this is something that I wrote, trying to make her journey a little easier right now, and it's a letter to God from us, kids, grandkids, everyone, Papa. Dear God, you have now received one of the kindest, most generous, loved women that has ever graced this earth. I felt that it was important to write you this and let you know some specifics to help my mom, Bubby, feel more comfortable in her new home. First, please reunite her with Grandma Gizzy and Grandpa George. Then make sure that Aunt Mary, Lola, and Estelle live next door. My dad, Jerry, can also help teach her the ropes since he's had almost 18 years up there with you. Next, please make sure that you have her canasta games on Wednesdays all lined up. Every morning should start with Good Morning America at 7 a.m., continuing with David Muir World News at 5:30. Following that at 6:30, Wheel of Fortune should be on TV. Save Saturday mornings for her special beauty shop appointments with Joe and her 8 o'clock a.m. Sunday morning show. The weekly lineup will end with American Idol on Sunday nights. Another thing is that to make sure she's surrounded by lots of good friends. She loves to laugh, tell stories, and always has great advice. Our yearly girls' trip to Florida, which included Joan, Bobby, and I, was always a shop till you drop type of trip. We never left out the one-of-a-kind show or any art fair. Her passport is up to date because she loves to travel and always needs a trip to book to look forward to. Being her travel agent, I will tell you, God, that she only likes the classiest of everything and she always overpacks. When it comes to meals, make sure you have lots of yogurt, matzah and melted cheese, bird's nests, coralie toffee, chocolate-covered pretzels, sweet and sour meatballs, and seafood is a must. If you hide the sweets in the freezer, she will definitely sneak into it and find them all. Hopefully you will have Deep Pescara, Bob Chin's, Morton's Happy Hour, next door Carson's, and Tuscany nearby. Her grilled octopus must be cooked extra well done. Next on the list is to keep her well informed on the fashion trends. Fashion and decorating are one of her highest priorities on her list, next to her family. Whether my mom was in Northbrook or Sarasota, she was always the queen of her castle, and of course her castle had to be spotless, including squeegee the glass shower doors and keeping the yellow absorbent towel right next to the sink so she could wipe it up when it's wet. She was the best mom to me, Richard, and Lauren. She was the best bubby to Josh, Rachel, Max, Sam, Carly, Dushan, Tatum, Rachel, Brandon, Georgie, and Mia, and a wonderful great-grandma to Wyatt. Please tell her from the bottom of our hearts that her wonderful husband, Barry, will certainly be taken care of down here. Me and the rest of our family want to thank her for teaching us about life, love, caring, and giving. God, please make sure that my mom has the opportunity to observe this special moment and see how many people truly love her. She has not only been my mom, but she was my best friend and #1 cheerleader, always on my side looking out for me. Last but not least, we wanted my mom to know that she will be missed more than anyone could ever imagine. She will always be watching over us, and I am sure she will be giving us signs anytime that she thinks it should be found. I am proud to say that I am the daughter of Madeline Cilman. I will always love you as big as the sky.
Lauren?
You meant so much to so many. You were truly one of a kind. You were the love of my dad's life, a love that was so strong it was unbreakable. Your support for one another, it was something to look up to. You were an amazing mother, bubby, and friend. We had so many ups and downs, but you taught me so many things in life. It makes me smile when I sometimes find myself doing the things that I picked up from you. I thought about what Rabbi Hart came to visit, and when you were filled with worry, he told you to think about your wonderful life and to repeat the words, grateful, loved, and blessed. When I reflect back, I was so lucky to be a part of your life, and those 3 words encompass the wonderful life you lived.
Barry? Okay, Barry.
In 1984, I hit the jackpot. One night, I walked into Billy's. I had a date. I was sitting at the bar. I looked across and I saw this gorgeous woman. And when I had time, I asked the bartender, who was that? Does she come in here all the time? And he said, once in a while. I haven't seen her that often. I said, will you do me a favor? Call me the next time she's here. So anyway, on April 1st, he gave me a call and said, she's here. I ran over to Billy's, and it just happened to be Jewish singles night. Yeah, I've never been to a Jewish singles night. I walked in, and Billy's had a big square bar, and there were no stools there. But I was a regular. I came in, and the porter saw me and got me a stool. I was the only guy in the place with a stool. And one of her girlfriends came up and said, "Can I share the stool with you?" And I said, "Yeah, you can, but it's really your girlfriend I want here." And, and a little bit later on, she came over, and the rest is history. We just hit it off amazingly. We did so much together. It was perfect. It was a love story for the ages. While we were there, the rabbi mentioned that I was wearing polyester, and you don't wear polyester around Maggie. She eventually, had me replace it all. And that year, I took a rather large deduction for polyester, and I got audited. I went down to the audit, and some young girl was sitting there, and we talked for a while, and, she saw on my tax return that I had some alimony there, or not alimony, child support, and she said, "I'm going through a divorce." And I was just talking and, going on and everything, and eventually, the bottom line was, she said, "Oh, you're paying a good amount, and I see you pay it early." She said, "My husband never, pays on time, and he's not paying much." And then she said, "Anybody that does that has to be an honest guy, and, there's nothing you owe. Everything will be dismissed on the polyester deduction." So it turned out real good. We started out, like the rabbi said, we had 2 weddings, one in Las Vegas. We were on our way to Pritikin to, try and get a healthy living style. We stopped in Las Vegas, and we got married in Vegas, and then that was on May 7th. And then on June 14th, we had a wedding, here in Chicago, which was beautiful. Anyway, after we got married, we were, faced with the store that she had. And we were trying to figure out how we're going to spend more time together, so she sold the store. And I made a lot of her girlfriends real mad at me because they lost a real good store that they all loved. And we went off to Florida. And on the way to Florida, she was crying. We drove down. She was crying all the way through Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky. I said, "What's going on? We're supposed to be happy. And, I miss my kids. I miss the family. And I'm going to Florida." So then she started crying through Kentucky. We got to the northern part of Georgia, and she's still crying. I said, "Mad," I said, "the Atlanta airport is about 250 miles away. If you're still crying when we get to Atlanta, I'm sending you back to Chicago." So she stopped crying, and, and away we went. She gave me, an amazing family. All the kids, the grandkids were born after we were married, and I inherited great kids, great everything. She just put everything together, and, our life was beautiful. We even became real good friends with Jerry and Virginia. We would, go out together, we would do things together, and it just shows that, it works. It's not just a divorce and you hate each other. We became good friends. The kids were happy, we were happy, and it worked out. Virginia is here today. And she does everything with us, whatever we do. If we go on a trip, whatever we do, you know, Virginia's with us if she chooses. You know, one thing, she went through a terrible, terrible time, you know, with this cancer. And I'm going to try something, but I don't think I'm going to make it. I gave her a card, you know, several years ago for our anniversary, and our anniversary was just 2 days ago. And I want to read the card to you if I can. And it's exactly how I feel. Hey, beautiful, if sometime today you look up and catch me smiling at you, don't be surprised. I'm just falling in love with you all over again. When I hear your voice or see your smile, I'm reminded how lucky I am to be married to you. On our anniversary and always, I love you with all my heart.
Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehishim Adonai Mevorach. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken. Blessed be the name of the eternal God. Into your care, O God, we entrust the spirit of Madeline Cilman, who has entered eternity. You keep faith with your children, O God, in death as in life. Sustain us now that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead for us, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, O God, will be with us as a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our lives and our hope in eternity. Please rise for the memorial prayer, the El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamatzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Tehorim, Kezoha HaRakia Masirim, Et Nishmat Medel HaYakara Shalanu, Shalcha LaOlama. Ba'al Rachamim Yasti Reha B'Seter Kenafav LaOlamim, Ritzvor B'Torah HaChaim Et Nishmata. Adonai Hu Nachalata, B'Tanuach B'Shalom, Al Mishkava, V'Nomar. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence with the holy and the pure who shine like the light of the heavens to Madeline Cilman, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence and within the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And we say, Amen. Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, the interment service will continue at Memorial Park Cemetery located at 9900 Grosse Point Road here in Skokie. For those of you who will be driving in the funeral procession, the procession will be forming in the parking lot. Please obtain an orange safety funeral sticker to place on the right-hand side of your windshield. Have your bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. For additional measures of safety, we will be providing a car in the back of the procession to hopefully keep other cars from entering the procession. And also, please use your horn liberally as you're going through the intersections, and please do not speak or text on your cellular phone while driving to the cemetery. Memorial contributions to the American Cancer Society would be appreciated. That information is on your service folder, and for those of you who are joining us online, you can find that information on our website. This concludes the services here at the chapel. I ask everyone to please rise and stand in place as we invite her grandchildren to come forward to serve as pallbearers. We're going to escort her casket to the hearse, and everyone can return to your cars. Pallbearers,